In this lesson, we're going to talk about the common methods that people use to search for and organize their digital files on their computer or in their cloud storage. The first method is folders, and this is a familiar concept for most people using File Explorer on Windows or Finder on a Mac. You typically have a main folder with nested subfolders in a hierarchy. Now, the pros are that it's familiar and structured. The cons are that it can get too nested and rigid, and it's best for people who like order and consistency. The second method is an index, and for this method, you usually have one page that will have topics listed, and then underneath each topic, you're going to actually link to another page that contains the notes, and so that's how you would be organizing things. The pros are that it connects ideas like a wiki, and the cons are that it needs some upkeep to avoid lost pages, because if you don't link them on that index page, you end up with a lot of orphaned pages. It's best for people who like finding patterns. The third method is using tags or labels. Now, this is similar to how hashtags work on social media platforms like Instagram or Twitter. You would use the pound sign or hashtag symbol before the topic, and then you would add this to your notes so that later on when you go to search for something, you can narrow down your search results more effectively. Now, the pros are that it is fast to group or search across various topics, and the cons are that it can get really messy if you have too many tags, and you also have to actually remember what tags you're using to make this more effective. It's best for people who have a lot of different interests. The next method is databases. So you can also consider spreadsheets in here. If you're familiar with using Google Sheets or Microsoft Excel, you basically create a list, and then using different columns, you're able to add different values that will let you sort and filter your results more effectively. This method is really useful for when you have to do calculations, such as budgeting, and the pros are that it allows for the sorting and filtering. The cons are that it can seem very complicated to set up, and it's best for people who like system building. And so now that we've covered all of these methods, in the next set of videos, I'm going to show you how to implement these in Anytype. To set up a folder structure similar to a My Documents in your File Explorer or Finder, we will use collections in Anytype. And also, to keep things simple, we'll just use one object type called pages. Here we can see that Mark has 5 folders. So he's got writing, journal, recipes, books, and movies. And we're going to go ahead and create the same structure in Anytype. So starting here on our widget sidebar, we're going to select this down arrow, and here is where you can make your first collection. So go ahead and select that. And the first time that you make a new object in a space, you'll typically have a widget pop up here in the sidebar. This will be useful for us as a quick navigation. Let's name our new collection the same My Documents. I'm going to go over here to the far right where the down arrow is again, and right here it has a setting for the default type for this view. So to create subfolders or sub-collections, we're going to change this from page to collection. Okay, so that means every time I create something in this My Documents, it's going to be another collection. So let's select new. And we can see here it says collection. So let's go ahead and fill out the 5 categories. Now that we have our 5 main folders, you can continue to make more sub collections using the same method of clicking into here and then creating more. So let's actually just make some entries in these folders. So Mark wants to keep inspiration that he has from movies that he's recently watched. So let's create one for the movie Looper, which is a time travel movie starring Bruce Willis. So I created this page when I was in the movies folder. However, I can also connect it to other collections by going up here to the top right where it says menu, the 3 dots, and you can add to another collection. If you go here to the top right, there's a menu, and if you select add to collection, you can add it to any other collection that you want. So I might want to put this in the writing collection when Mark is doing his writing about time travel research. So let's select writing, and now it's been added, and a couple of things have changed here. We can look at our backlinks. If you click on where it says backlinks, you can see that it's part of both the writing and movies. You can also see this up here in the property section if you go here, and we've got writing and movies right here. If we go into the writing folder, we can see Looper is here. So I added this additional information on the note. If I go back to movies and I open the note here in my movies collection, I can see that it's actually updated. So in that sense, collections in Anytype are very different from your folders that are on your desktop because they're really just a grouping. So your pages or objects are living independently of this collection, and no matter where you open it from, you'll be able to edit it. And if you open it in another place, it's still the same page. I also really like using collections because there is options here in the menu to add it to another collection without having to navigate to a different place. If I wanted to add a note from the, quick create button right here, I can just start writing any note. And if I have a note called More Time Travel Thoughts, and this note doesn't really have a connection anywhere, we can see that here in properties. It's not connected to anything at the moment, but it is very easy to go to the menu and quickly add it to whatever collection I want. So I want to put this back into my writing just so we have it there. You can exit out of this properties by clicking here to move that back. So when I go to my writing, there's my time travel thought. Now, if you prefer more of the folder icon view on your desktop, you can change that. So the default right now is set to a list view, so it looks like this. If you prefer seeing the larger icons, like when you have folders set up on your desktop, you can go over here just to the left of this new button. This is your settings. And under settings, we want to select layout. So here you can see it says list. You have 6 different options here. And so the one I'm going to select is gallery. And this one will look like buttons. And then you can also sort these differently depending on how you want to see them. So sorting is the next over from settings. So this one with the 2 arrows. So if you select sort, right now it's sorted by name, just like your file explorer. You can select created by last modified date. To set up an index, we're going to use a series of pages that are interlinked. So in this new space, I already have a pages type open. If you don't see that here, you can always go up to right next to where your space name is and select the down arrow, and you can create a new page from here. I'm just going to call this home page. Okay, now I'm just going to list out the 5 main categories that I want to write about. So we have writing, we have journal, recipes, books, and movies. I'm going to highlight the word writing, and then when you see the toolbar pop up, select more options, and I'm going to turn it into an object. So I'm going to create this as another page here on the secondary pop-up menu. And now we can see it's got a little icon here for the page. I know it's a little bit hard to see in dark mode, and we're going to go ahead and do that for all of these. Okay, so now that these are all linked pages, we can also see that here in my widget, we have all these new pages that have been created. Okay, so now that I'm on my writing page, I will have some subcategories that I want to write about. So I'm just going to list those: research, themes, characters. Okay, so if I have those, And I don't necessarily want these to be another page. I just want them to be headings. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to click to get this menu pop up. And then under text style, I'm going to change this over to heading. And I'm going to do the same thing with all of these. You can also do it from here, the more options. Ooh, no, you can't. And then if I select here, you can also select heading from this menu. So now that I have these, what you'll see now is over on the right side, we actually have a pop-up table of contents. And this will show up when you use those text styles heading and subheading. So I really like that. You can also open it in a sidebar so that it's here when you're writing. So I'm doing more topics under research. I happen to be in books and I want to create a new page on the fly. So I'm going to create one and I'm going to call it first time loop. So this is a scene. I want to link this back to the writing page while I'm on here. Go up here to the menu, the 3 links, and then I'm going to add link to object. So here I can select writing, and time loop has been linked to writing. So let's go over here to the writing page to see where it ended up. And we can see that it ends up down here at the bottom. Now, I did have these headings, and since it's not quite where I wanted it, this actually is a scene, and I don't have a heading for that yet. Let me make one now, and we're going to turn that into a heading style. And so now I have my first time loop. It is now connected on this page. To create tags in Anytype, there's actually 3 different methods. So the first one I'm going to talk about is inline using a hashtag. The second way is to use a property that is called a tag. And then the third way is actually to use types in Anytype as your first level tag. And so that will actually be covered in the next lesson called databases. So I'm going to go over inline with a hashtag first. I have all these notes already in my space. I want to be able to find this later using a hashtag when I'm writing inline in the body of my note. So I'm going to do hashtag time travel. And as far as capitalizing or just using lowercase letters, for me, it's easier and for accessibility of visually seeing it to use capital letters to separate the different words. But you can absolutely just use lowercase letters if you want. So now that I've labeled this as time travel, I'm going to go back and do a couple more notes that I want to be part of the time travel. Let's do this one. This method works if you're typing in your note, if you already have a list of tags that you're able to remember quite quickly. This way is useful. And then let's do one more. Let's do this one. Okay, let me go back to pages and let's do a search. So if I select search and I want my hashtag time travel, I will have in my search results anything that has that hashtag time travel in it. So this is one way that you can implement using tags to find things quickly. And then the second way I'm going to show you is if I go back to my pages, I'm currently in my layout, which is a grid view. So it looks like a spreadsheet, and I have this column that's usually a default already, the tag. Here I can actually create new tags. Let's do time travel here, and then make sure that you select down here where it says create option, and it automatically puts a color on it. You're always able to adjust this later if you want, so pick a different color. And then let's also put movie on here. And so you can see that this property itself allows you to select more than one option. So I have 2 options on here for this one. Let's go down to here and I'm just going to select this. And then let's take a look what the search results look like. So if I go back up to search And this time I want to search for time travel with a space in between it. I can now see that I have that tag, time travel, comes up first, and then everything else that has time travel either within this description or the title of the content will show up also. But this is the format that's easier to see because it says tag, that's the property. Now if I just searched up travel instead of the entire tag, it's still going to show up because those words were separated. But let me edit this to not have a space in between. Now that is time travel as one word without a space in between. So when I search for travel, it doesn't show up because travel is included in the word. It doesn't show up by itself. If I search for time travel, it still doesn't show up because that tag was seen as one word together. So if I remove the space in between, I can now see it. So just one thing to keep in mind as you're writing your tags, whether you have a space in there or not, it's going to affect how your search results show up. And then another thing that you can do once you have tags implemented is if you're searching for certain tags all the time, you can create a query for that. So let's go up here to the add a new type, and I'm going to select query. And now that I have query, I want to call this time travel. Okay, and then you do have to select under here, select a query. So a query, again, is just a search for one specific characteristic. So I'm going to search property, and then I want tag. My properties are down here. So now that I've selected property tag, this is showing me all objects that have this property, but I want to specifically only show time travel. So what I need to do is I need to filter the results. So right now it's just showing the titles. I actually want to see the tags in here. So I'm going to go to settings, and you can choose a different layout if you want to. I prefer the grid when I want to see things like this so that I have that spreadsheet look to it. And then let me go back one just a little bit. And then under properties, I need to show it on here. So I'm going to go to tag and toggle this on. And then now it shows up right here. So we can move that over a little bit. Okay, so now I can see some of these other notes are showing up, but I only want to see the ones that have the time travel in it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to filter the results. If I go to filter, we're going to go down and tag is right here. I've selected tag and it's showing all. Click on the all, like right next to it. It's going to pop up with the tag, select has any of, and then one more time you're going to select add, and then you can select from the various tags that you have here. So I'm going to select time travel. Okay, so now it is filtered and it's only showing me time travel, and that's the query that I wanted. So I've got time loops, time travel, and then what's really nice about this query is that anytime I have something with time travel, it will automatically update, and I can just come back to this and look at all my notes that have time travel on it. You can also actually add a new object from here, and it will automatically have the time travel tag. So if I put in new movie October, I have a new page and it's already got the time travel tag on it. So just for your information, there is a feature request that is still on the Anytype roadmap called tag as an object, and that hasn't been implemented yet, but this may change how you use tags in the future. Hopefully it will make it way more intuitive and efficient, but this is the method that I use for tags. To create spreadsheets or databases, we're going to use types. Now, in previous lessons, I only used one object type, the page. However, in this lesson, we'll see how using multiple object types will give you more flexibility for sorting and filtering your data. Now, a few concepts that we want to keep in mind are the hierarchy of things in Anytype. Now, as of version 46, the architecture behind how things are structured in Anytype has changed a little bit, and types are now what control both templates and properties. Another thing we need to keep in mind is that properties are global and reusable, meaning that if I say I make a 5-star rating property and I use that with movies, I can also reuse that same property in books, and then I can also create a query for 5-star rating, and I can see everything in my Anytype space that has that specific property. So it would be inclusive of both books and movies. Now, if you go up here to make a new type, the little down arrow, you'll see that there are several here that are already pre-made. So the page is a system object. You can't get rid of this one. The task is something you can delete, and it looks a little bit different. It's got a check mark box you can use for your progress. And then bookmark has a URL, and you can reuse bookmarks in other objects. And then the note layout is one where it doesn't have a title. Whatever you write in the body text will show up as a running title for this object. And then project is a pre-made object that goes along with tasks. So when I click into these, you'll see what I mean, how they're related. So let's take a look at task first. So it's got a due date, a status, the tag, and then here is the linked project. So if I wanted to link a project, I could do this, and this becomes a clickable link that I can then open. Okay, so let me go back a little bit. And then as we look at some of these other properties, this one is set as a date, so it pops out with a calendar for you to choose from. Status is a select, so you can only choose one of these. And then tag is open to whatever you want to put in for tags. All right. So let's go back a couple places. So that was the task, and that's how projects are related to tasks. With the bookmark, that is a URL. And then the difference between the note and the page, if I open up the note, you'll see like here's everything that I'm typing. The note layout doesn't have a separate title, so anything you put down here, like say if I copied all of this and just add it again, it continues to add it to here. So those are the default types, and you can also see those if you go to your space settings. Here under content model, we've got object types, and here we can see that my types are ones that you can delete. These are, even though these are come pre-made with your Anytype space, you can delete these. The ones that are listed under system types are ones that you cannot delete. So you can see here, the page one is not, it says system here at the very top. It's one that you can't delete, as well as bookmarks. That is a fixed permanent object that you can't get rid of. Let's think about again the different types that we were planning to use in our other examples. So we had writing, we had a journal, we had recipes, books, and movies. So all of these can be their own types. We would make one for each of these, and you can do that here. So let's go up to our down arrow here and create a new type. All right, so here we've got a screen here. Now it seems like you should be able to edit this, but you cannot. This will automatically edit once you fill in from this side menu over here. So I'm going to call this writing notes, and then the little puzzle icon right next to it is where you can choose from these minimalist icons. Let's select this one, and you can also select a different color to go along with it. So that's my writing note, and sorry, this should actually be the singular, and this one says plural, and this is just for like the note itself is singular, but when you see everything in a list, the list is going to be called writing notes, similar to the database title if you're used to using other apps like Notion. Okay, and then here we have the different layout types. Now layout types, we kind of saw a little bit of that in our pre-made default types. So the basic one is actually what's used on a page. It has a separate title from the body of the note. The profile would be used mainly for people usually. The action is similar to the task because it has a check mark, and then the note is the one that doesn't have a separate title. So I prefer the basic, the page style, so I'm going to leave it like that. And then if you like seeing your properties here, right now it's in a line. You can change that to list so that they show up here like this. So again, if you're used to using an app like Notion, this is a common layout that you see. The properties that are listed here go along with what's in the header on this side. So you can actually move these if you don't want them. Like, for example, let's move down that backlinks, and I want to see the last modified date up here. Now it's shifted over here into the heading area. Okay, so we've got all these things here. I think I'm good. I'm going to select apply. So now we have writing notes. You can see this is where the plural comes in. Okay, so now that we've done writing notes, let's go ahead and create a new one. Let's go to create type, and this time we're going to create movies. Okay, and let's see if we've got like a video one here. And I always do that. Sorry, I do the singular and plural instead of singular. Okay, so now we've got movies, and then I'm going to keep everything the same here. And one of the examples I wanted to show you is a 5-star rating. So for that, I'm actually going to use the select, and here we're going to say 5-star rating, select, and select save, and then apply. Okay, so now that I've got that, let's create a new object, and let's go to grid view. Add a property, and then I want the 5-star rating. Okay, so now here's where I can enter that rating. And if you want to use emojis, like I can select my emoji picker here. So I'm going to go to my emoji picker, and I'm going to put star. Okay, so now I have 5 stars here. Let me copy that whole thing. Set status, and then I can continue to make more stars. Okay, so now if I have a movie, let's say I was thinking about Looper again, and I want to see the 5-star rating here. Let's go over to our properties and edit type. And let's move that into the top over here. And I'm going to change this over to list view. Okay, so now I can say I thought Looper was about a 4-star movie, and that's going to show up right here. So that's one rating, but we can also use this rating for any other types that we decide to make. So let's create a new type called books. So let me go singular here, plural here. I want the list view, and then in properties, I want the 5-star rating. And let's put that all here at the top. Click apply and create a new object. I just pasted the astronaut's wife. Let me get my properties here. My 5-star rating. Okay, so I want to make this a 4-star rating. And then if I wanted to search my entire space, I could make a query. This is kind of very similar to a type, although this is best used for properties. So if I go to properties, I'm going to select 5-star rating, and then I'm going to label this star rating. And so any object that has this rating will show up here. And let me do the grid view for consistency. Let's show that 5-star rating. And so we can see here, I've got the 5-star rating. Both of these show up even though they are different object types. So I have a book and I have a movie. So this is something that I really like about Anytype. So I can do a property that spans all the different types that I have in my space, and then I can also search for a specific property and see all of these different types. I don't have to just see books or just movies. I can see both of them in one place. So let me show you how easy it is to change types. So right now, the sample notes that I have in here are all pages, but let's say I want to change this movie review, and I want to turn it into a movie object type because I have that 5-star rating that I want to use on it. So I can simply right-click on the movie review, and it has some options here. Sorry, my screen is zoomed in, so it went really far up. So right here, it says change type. So I can select only from types that I already have. So this one, I'm going to switch it over to movie. And so now it's no longer in my pages. It is in my movie. So let's open this up. I'd made 2 notes with the same movie title. So here was the earlier one I did with the 5-star rating, but here is the new one with that I just changed from a page into a movie. So it's very simple to do. And you can also batch change the object, so you can select several of them at one time. So let's say these are all notes that I want into my writing notes. So I'm just going to click and highlight all of these. Let's see. Okay, right there. And then again, I'm going to right click and I can batch change all of these at once into my writing notes. All right, so that is done. And if I go over to writing notes, I can see all of them are here already. And then another thing I want to show you that's a benefit of using types is the ability to filter by object type. So in this case, I'm going to create another type. And to go with our movies, I'm going to call this actor and actors. And I'm going to leave everything else like this for now. I've got all these different actors and actresses in here, and let me go back into my movie database. Okay, so I've got my movie database. I'm actually going to get rid of this one because these were duplicates, so they're both about the movie Looper. So I'm going to add another property here, so I'm going to select the plus button, and this time I'm going to select Add Property, and here I'm going to select Object. So this means I can choose another object that exists in my space. And I'm going to name this one Actors and select Save. So here, when I click into this box, it's automatically going to show me a list of all of my objects in my space. Now this can get really long, and even though there is a search box, you can look for Cruise and then add the name right here. Another way to help you if you like using that drop-down menu is to go back to the property. So I'm going to click there to go to the property edit menu. And this one right here where it says limit object types, select object type. So I'm going to go over here to where the plus icon is, add object type, and here I'm going to select actor. And sometimes the user interface is a little bit in the way, so I'm not, because I have my screen zoomed out. Let me click over here. And then, so now if I click into this box, you can see it's filtered for the actors only. And so my list is much shorter. And so this is a really great way if you like using this drop down to filter your results so you're not seeing everything that's in your space. And so I can select Bruce Willis on that one, and now I'm good. And then since this is an object on its own, if I double click here, I will automatically open my Bruce Willis note. So it is nice that I can go back and forth between my movie and then any other objects that I want in here.